Shalom, and welcome to this presentation on YHWH's Timekeeping Lights, the Sun, Moon, and Stars, Part 3, by Daniel Fuentes, servant of YHWH. Scriptural parameter 2 continued. Now we saw the order of seasons in Yovelim, Jubilees, and now we're going to see if the word of the Almighty continues to hold true, if we can find evidence of the same order of the seasons here in Chanukh, and I believe we will. The sun's annual course, made up of 12 solar months, is tracked in order in, so we're going to track the solar year, 12 solar months in Chanukh, and we're going to start with Chanukh, chapter 72, verse 8. When the sun rises in the Shamayim, he comes forth through that fourth portal 30 mornings in succession and goes down exactly in the fourth portal in the west of the Shamayim. Now, this is referring to the first solar month. We have evidence of that because it mentions the sun, and you can see I have it in bold there. This is not referring to a lunar month. This is speaking of a solar month, and it's the first solar month. This first solar month is made up of days 1 through 30. You can see that the text clearly says 30 mornings. It's speaking of 30 days. Now, the spring seasonal division begins on the first day of this first solar month. That's when the spring seasonal division happens, like we just read in Yovelim. Remember, it's associated with the first month. It's spring, and this is the evidence of that. As we will soon see, the 12th and last month of the solar year ends at the turning of the season into the spring division. That's how we can know that this really is spring, that we're starting in the right season, is when you get to solar month 12, you're going to see evidence that it's going from winter into spring. So that then after the 12th solar month, when you get to this first solar month, you are in spring, which is what I'm telling you right now. Now this month, right here, this first solar month aligns with the timing of equal parts of daylight and night. And you'll see that in the text as well. Continuing on, let's go to Chanukh, chapter 72, verse 11. And here we see the word says, and the sun rises from that fourth portal and goes down in the fourth portal and returns to the fifth portal of the east 30 mornings and rises from it and goes down in the fifth portal. This is referring to the second solar month. Again, we see evidence that it's speaking of the sun in the text, not the moon. And also we see that it spends 30 mornings, so that's an additional 30 days. So here we have the reckoning of the year, the second solar month, which consists of days 31 through 60. Continuing in Chanukh, we go to Chanukh again, still chapter 72. We're going to read verses 13 through 14. And it, referring to the sun, returns to the east and enters into the sixth portal and rises and goes down in the sixth portal 31 mornings on account of its sign. On that day, the day becomes longer than the night, and the day becomes double the night, and the day becomes 12 parts, and the night is shortened and becomes 6 parts. Now, again, we know it's speaking of the sun. This is not speaking of lunar months. This is speaking of the third solar month. One thing you'll see that's peculiar about this third solar month is that it has an additional day. That's known as its sign. You can see it here in this scripture. It mentions its sign. So instead of being 30 days like the other months are, this third solar month has 31 days, an extra day. That extra day is for understanding that the season is turning. So what we see here, this sign of the extra day and day becoming double longer than night account for the turning of the season into summer. So it's going from spring into summer. The summer division that begins on the first day of the fourth solar month. Do you remember how we read in Yovelim that the four divisions, one of them is the first, Chodesh, which we found evidence it fell on the first day of the first solar month. And now we're seeing here that the next season, which is summer, is going to fall on the first day of the fourth solar month. So this third solar month accounts for days 61 through 91. Let us continue in Hanoch 72 verse 15. And the sun mounts up to make the day shorter and the night longer. And the sun returns to the east and enters into the sixth portal and rises from it and goes down 30 mornings. Here we see again evidence in the text that it's speaking of the sun. And specifically, it's speaking of 30 mornings. So we know it's another 30-day month. This is the fourth solar month. And it reckons the days 92 through 121. The summer seasonal division begins on the first day of this fourth solar month. To make the day shorter and the night longer means the sun is orienting its movement from the existing summer season that is just beginning to which is where daylight periods are longer than nights, and that's proven even in our own modern time that in the summer the daylight periods are longer than night. And then it's going to move through the fall season of equal day and night, because remember the spring is associated with equal day and night, and so is fall. And then the sun is moving toward the winter season when nights are longer than daylight periods. And we're going to prove that when we get to the winter division of the seasons. Let us continue in Hanoch chapter 72 verse 17. And the sun goes forth from that sixth portal in the west and goes to the east and rises in the fifth portal for 30 mornings and goes down in the west again in the fifth western portal. Again, this is referring to the sun, a solar month. It's 30 mornings means it's 30 days. This fifth solar month reckons days 122 to 151. Now we're in Hanoch chapter 72 verses 19 through 20. And the sun goes forth from that fifth portal and goes down in the fifth portal of the west and rises in the fourth portal for 31 mornings on account of its sign, and goes down in the west. On that day, the day is equalized with the night, and the night amounts to 9 parts and the day to 9 parts. You'll find that this happens in the spring and in the fall. Now this time, during this sixth solar month, it's turning into fall. This sign of the extra day, which is the 31st day, and equal day and night account for the turning of the season into the autumnal or fall division that begins on the first day of the seventh solar month. The equilux, which is known as equal day and night in Yerushalayim, and the equinox, which is equal day and night at the Earth's equator, these are not the signs of YHWH's time. So we don't have to look for those things as the day to end a year or the day to begin a year. However, both of those are witnesses of the turning of the seasons into fall. So when we see those moments, which we can in our modern time understand when they take place, we know that it's just a witness that equal day and night happening, that it is the season. Whether it's spring or fall, here in the sixth solar month at its end, it's actually turning from summer into fall. So this is the sixth solar month that reckons the days 152 to 182. Continue in Hanok, chapter 72, verse 21. And the sun rises from that portal and goes down in the west and returns to the east and rises 30 mornings in the third portal and goes down in the west in the third portal. Again, this is referring to the sun. It's referring to the 30 mornings. This is the 7th solar month, which reckons days 183 to 212. And the autumnal or fall seasonal division begins on the first day of the 7th solar month. So again, this accords with Yovelim that mention that in the first month, in the 4th month, in the 7th month, and in the 10th month, that there would be seasonal divisions. And here we're seeing it specifically with the solar year so far, because we're finding it in the solar months here. However, like Yovelim mentions, the new moons, the Chodeshim, are associated with these solar months. And we'll see that when we're counting the year with the Chodeshim, the renewed months, and with the solar months together. And we'll be able to see how there's an association. Continuing in Hanoch, chapter 72, verse 23. And the sun rises from that third portal and goes down in the third portal in the west and returns to the east, and for 30 mornings rises in the second portal in the east, and in the same way goes down in the second portal in the west of the Shamayim. This is referring to the 8th solar month, which reckons days 213 to 242. Hanoch, chapter 72, verse 25. And the sun rises on that day from that second portal and goes down in the west in the second portal and returns to the east into the first portal for 31 mornings, and goes down in the first portal in the west of the Shamayim. And on that day the night becomes longer and amounts to the double of the day, and the night amounts exactly to 12 parts and the day to 6. This sign of the extra day, which is the 31st day, and the night becoming double longer than day, account for the turning of the season into the winter division. That happens even in our modern time. We understand that in the winter, the nights are longer than the daylight periods. So here we see that this extra day, this sign here, is for the turning of the season into the winter division that begins on the first day of the 10th solar month. So this is the 9th solar month, which accounts for days 243 to 273. Back in Chanukh now, chapter 72, verse 27, and the sun has traversed the divisions of its orbit and turns again on those divisions of its orbit and enters that portal 30 mornings and goes down also in the west opposite to it. This is the 10th solar month, which reckons days 274 to 303. The winter seasonal division begins on the first day of this 10th solar month. This is the final seasonal division of the year. You'll see that by the time we get to the solar month number 12, we'll see that there's going to be a turning of the season from winter into spring, like I referred to at the beginning of this presentation. Hanoch 72 verse 29, and the sun has returned and entered into the second portal in the east, and returns on those its divisions of its orbit for 30 mornings, rising and going down. This is the 11th solar month, which reckons days 304 to 333. And here we have The final witness, the 12th solar month, in Hanok chapter 72, verses 31 through 32. And on that day the sun rises from that portal and goes down in the west and returns to the east and rises in the third portal for 31 mornings and goes down in the west of the Shamayim. On that day the night decreases and amounts to 9 parts, and the day to 9 parts, and the night is equal to the day, and the year is exactly as to its days 364. This sign of the extra day, which is the 31st day, and equal day and night account for the turning of the season into the vernal or spring division that begins on the first day of the first solar month. I explained that when we first began reckoning these 12 solar months, that we're beginning that first solar month in the spring, and now you see evidence of that. The equilux, equal day and night in Yerushalayim, and the equinox, equal day and night at Earth's equator, are not the signs of YHWH's time, but are both witnesses of the turning of the season, in this case into spring. YHWH's year, Shana, is counted as a 364-day solar year. Here we have evidence of it. We began with solar month 1, we went all the way to solar month 12, and in this solar month 12, it says that the days that it reckoned, the 31 days, were days 334 to 364, exactly what the Almighty said is an exact year. These scriptures in Hanok show that there are only 12 solar months. There is no such thing as a 13th solar month. It doesn't exist. That can't happen. We have proof of that here in the scriptures, that it specifically mentions 12, and there is no room for a 13th, because after the 12, it then begins on the 1st in the spring. I'd like to make a clarification. In the next slide, I'll be showing you how the sun's annual course determines the order of the seasons visually, and you'll be hearing me make statements about a 31st day and a 91st day, and I want you to know that it is interchangeable. When one says 31st day, according to the annual course of the sun, which is its 12 months each year, when one says 31st day or 91st day, it means the same thing, because each of the 4 seasons is given 91 days over the year, which is 3 months, with the first 2 months of each season being 30 days and the third month of each season being 31 days. When you add the third month with the extra day, it's always 91. So beginning here in the spring season would be given its 91 days. Its first month would be 30 days. Its second month would be an additional 30 days. And then its final month would make it to 31 day, which when you add it all together, all 3 months, it's actually the 91st day. That's why I say that 31 and 91 are interchangeable. That 31st or 91st day of each season is always going to be the turning day, where the season is about to turn into the new one. So it's the final day. In this case, it's the final day of spring, and then the following solar day is the first day of a new season, which is the summer. And then the summer gets its 3 months of 2 months of 30 days, and then its final month of 31, which is also the 91st day. Remember, I'm saying the 31st and 91st are always interchangeable. And then that day is the turning of the season for summer, meaning the following day we understand that it's a new season. The following solar day is the first day of the fall. So I just want to make sure you all understand in the next slide, when I say 31 and 91, I'm speaking of the same day of turning of the season. Let us understand how The sun's annual course determines the order of the seasons. We just read about it in Hanoch, how we were able to track the 12 solar months, and how after 3 months, that additional day, that 31st day, showed the turning of the season, and that the following first day of the next solar month was the first day of a new season. We're going to begin here in the east, and we're going to begin at equal day and night, according to what Hanoch speaks of. So we're associating the equal day and night here with the east, with the spring season. Now we know that the spring is given 3 months. So it's going to continue to move counterclockwise. And let's pretend that this is the sun, that this laser is the sun. So it's the sun's position to our earth, moving. It's given 3 months of time until it reaches and approximates to the north here. And in its approximation, it gets to that 31st day, which is the turning of the season. And then, now it has changed from the spring season to now the summer season. And then it continues for 3 months until it approaches the next season. It continues for 3 months. And here it goes to our west. And as it's getting to its 31st day, that marks the turning of the season, and the following day, it is at the following, the new solar month, which marks a new season, which is now fall. And again, remember, fall is associated with equal day and night as well. And it actually has to do with being here at this point of the Earth's equator. So in the spring, at the beginning, it was associated with being at the Earth's equator, equal day and night, and here it is associated with the same here in the fall. Now in the fall, it continues to move towards the next season. The fall has its own 3 months until it gets to day 91. And when it gets to day 91, which is the day of the sign, the turning of the season, it's letting you know that the following day it begins the next month, which is the last month of the year, the 4th seasonal division, which is winter, and we're associating it here with the south. Now, winter gets its own 3 months, and it continues now. Now remember, winter is associated with the nights being longer than the day. And remember, when we got to summer here, summer was associated with the days being longer than the night. And remember, spring was associated with equal day and night, and fall was associated with equal day and night. Let's continue with winter now. It gets its 3 months. It continues counterclockwise for 3 months until it approximates its 91st day of its 3 months, which is its turning of the season. And we know that the following day after that 91st day would be the beginning of the next solar month. So it would be the end of the 12th solar month, and then the next day the season has turned now, and it was the beginning of spring, the first day of the first solar month, which is where we started. So we're going to be seeing that when we count the 364 days solar year, we're going to be seeing how this plays out. But here we have a visual of how this happens. Now I want you to understand that there is such a thing in our time as a northern hemisphere, which is above the equator, and we know that there's a southern hemisphere that's below the equator. And you have to understand that when it is spring season in the northern hemisphere, it's actually fall for these people down here. Why? Because the sun is further away from them. Okay? And it's the same thing when it is summer here in the northern hemisphere. It's considered winter for these people down here because the sun is so far away from them. it's so close here to these nations here in the northern hemisphere. The sun is so close that it's summer, but it's so far away from these down here that it's their winter. Do you understand how this is happening? And then when it gets back here, we see that this is fall for those in the northern hemisphere, but for those in the southern, it's actually their spring. And again, when we get here to our northern hemisphere winter, you notice all these in the northern hemisphere, look how far away they are up there to this sun down here. That's why it's winter for the northern hemisphere. The sun is far away. However, for these here in the southern hemisphere, it's so close for them, it's their summer. So you can actually prove that this is accurate in our modern time. Praise the Almighty. Thank you for joining me for part 3 of this teaching. We learned that there are 12 solar months that add up to the 364-day year that begins in the spring season and ends in the winter season. We also learned that each of the 4 seasons are divided into 91 days. Here's the reference that was used for part 3 of this teaching. I hope you'll join me for part 4 of this teaching.